welcome to Sports Counsel, your playbook for all things sports. I am your host Matt, and I'm here with G and Brian for this episode of the show. The fantasy football season is just around the corner, and we're making sure you're ready to ace your fantasy draft. On today's episode, we debate the strategy you should have for drafting quarterbacks and tight ends this year, as well as the players you should be targeting at the position. We'll also play a game of draft or pass before our experts reveal their Counsel Champions that will win you your league. Today is August 21st, 2024, and this is episode 143 of the show.
What's up, guys? How are y'all?
It's a late night podcast in the booth right now. I mean, you guys can't tell, like, we're just recording and it's kind of just a space, but like, we're recording this a little bit later than we usually do, so I think...
Yes, sir.
You know what happens with late night? We get freaky.
You know...
Come out.
Wrong podcast. Sorry.
Hey, save that for the Patreon edition. It's for the other people.
Yeah, I like how you introduced us as experts. I just opened Fantasy Pros for the first time this season, approximately 10 minutes ago. But I know what I'm talking about. We're experts. I'm an actual pro here, so we got you guys with recommendations.
There you go.
I mean, I feel like anybody calls themselves an expert, but if you want to figure out where you can get these experts' opinions and socials, so we got Sports Counsel. That's our Discord. Make sure you join. And if you're looking for the Discord link, that's going to be on our Instagram and Twitter, sports_counsel. Find us on everything else. Relatively it's the same, but those are our big three. We're on Threads. We're on Facebook. Also Sports Counsel. And if you want to, come talk to us, ask us the questions you might not want to ask us with everybody else around, or on Twitter, Discord's a place to go. We'll always have our council calls out. Shout out to Matt, making everybody rich, right? And then, Instagram's going to have a bunch of great, new graphics. Don't want to spoil too much, but those will be out as well. So look out on our socials. We're active on everything. So reach out to us. We want to, start this community up, right? And, we're excited to talk to you guys. The mocks have been a blast. I feel like every episode we start with talking about the mocks, right? Like, just an absolute blast.
Again, it's crazy. You have to join our Discord. Again, it's in all the social media platforms, sports_counsel. Like, the Discord, like, we are just mocking 24/7. Like, when I wake up, I see a message already for a mock draft. People are asking for a mock draft. When I go to sleep, like, when I was editing the last podcast late at night, I saw an episode, like, people want a mock draft. Like, people want a mock.
Fun. And feel like with the draft orders for people who are getting decided for whatever you're doing for your draft order, there's a lot of creativity out there. But, man, the first thing you think of is, like, I got the 6th pick. Let me go do a mock with the 6th pick. And it's just so easy. It's so much fun. So, yeah, come check us out. Once again, sports_counsel on Instagram, on Twitter/X, and then the Sports Counsel Discord. Find it on the links in those bios for both of those platforms. And, yeah, we're excited to talk to you guys. But today, we got the ball throwers.
Yes. And the other one. What's the other one again?
We got some big ball catchers.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I didn't want to say it myself, but thank you, Brian, for that. Yes, we're talking quarterbacks and tight ends for this episode. If you wanted to see our previous episodes on wide receivers and running backs, you can take a look back at those episodes. Again, we're on all platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, whatever you listen to your podcast. But today we're specifically talking quarterbacks and tight ends, and we're mainly focusing on draft strategy, just like we were in those last episodes here. So, we've been talking a lot about all the positions that make up your lineup and how you should draft them. And for the running back position, we kind of varied on, zero running back strategy versus draft a running back early, right? And we kind of came to the consensus you either draft them early or you draft them really, really late. And when we went to the wide receivers, we said we wanted to draft elite wide receivers, so you want to try to get them early, right? But if you're going to draft a running back early, you're going to draft a wide receiver early, what do you think our strategy is for quarterbacks and tight ends? Do you think, like, are we just going to keep saying draft everyone early and, like, that's your strategy? Just draft everyone early? I mean, eventually...
Just draft everybody. It's very simple.
Just draft the best player at each position and you'll probably be fine, right?
I mean, if you have Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Travis Kelce, like, how are you going to lose? Like, come on. Be real.
Yes, and in those 3-team leagues, that's very helpful for those people. But when you're dealing in a 12-team league like we are, or like a 10-team league, you can't draft everyone early. You have to make sacrifices at certain points in the draft. So when you come into the draft, you have to have a strategy in mind, like, okay, I'm probably going to target a wide receiver, then a running back in the second, then I'll probably go back to wide receiver again. You have to allot some space for those quarterbacks and tight ends. But I think it's a lot different for those positions because, and that's why we bunched them up here, you only have to draft usually one of them, unless you're in like some kind of super flex league. But we're mostly sticking to the standard lineups where you have one quarterback, one tight end. So you don't have to draft a ton of running backs. You don't have to draft a ton of wide receivers. You really have to draft only 1 or 2 quarterbacks and tight ends at most. One as your starter and one as the backup or the starter in case the other guy sucks, right? So it kind of brings an interesting strategy into that perspective. So I just want to get your guys' perspective right now. Like, again, we're talking about draft strategy here. Where do you usually target quarterbacks and tight ends? And specifically for this year, because it obviously changes every year.
I feel like a quarterback, my opinion, and mostly has been the same. I'm not getting one probably in the first 4 rounds. It's just too early for me. Like you said, the value of the running back, tight ends, and the wide receivers is much higher in my opinion. And I wouldn't take quarterback first few rounds. Like there's a lot of stats out there. Like usually the difference between a QB1, like the first 12 and the next 12 are about like 6-7 points. It's not a lot, honestly. And you might be like, that's a lot, but you're the difference between a really, really good running back and a bad running back on a weekly basis is much more than that, right? And especially with wide receivers, and there's so many of them that you could get and stack your lineup, right? So it's about efficiency. This comes out of my financial working background is just you got to allocate your resources properly. There's just so many quarterbacks, and the quarterbacks got to do just so little to get you good points, right? So I like getting my quarterbacks late. Tight end this year is interesting more than the last few years. I feel like last few years we've always talked about the graveyard, and that's a very famous tight end place to be. But this year it feels like there's so many good tight ends. Like I don't know, maybe we're just gonna get burned again. But obviously you got your big 3 of the last 4 years. You'd say Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, great. But now you got the young guys stepping up too, right? Laporta, McBride, Kincaid, Bowers coming in. Like there's some real feasible options. So don't mind tight end, but still not going top 2 or 3 rounds for me. Or at least I'd go tight end would be like 4 or 5. Same with quarterback, would probably be like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the similar lines most of the time when I draft. I feel like when it comes to quarterbacks, it's always like everyone just drafts, wide receivers, running backs, or the elite tier of a tight ends. And then suddenly around that round 4 or 5, someone finally picks a quarterback. And then everyone else afterwards is like, we have quarterbacks. You have to draft a quarterback. And then your top 5 quarterbacks are gone out of the way. And then that's usually that first tier of, these are the elite of the quarterbacks. And everything after that, there is some degree of drop off. So I feel like the quarterback situation, it usually comes in waves. And usually starts off a bit of a run as soon as someone drafts, your Mahomes or your other good quarterbaks out there.
The guy that drafts Josh Allen in the second.
Dude,
I hate those guys. I hate those guys. I hate those guys.
I was reading a little story someone wrote about their family league. I've never participated in a family league because unfortunately my family isn't big enough to play fantasy football like that.
Hey, we're part of your family, man. Don't worry about it.
Thank you so much.
You don't need those other people.
By the way, shout out to the Listener League. We filled up in record time, by the way, with the Discord. We only released it early on Discord because we told y'all we would release it early on Discord. Everybody already jumped on it before we could even have a chance to post it on social media.
We got a wait list.
Yeah.
We got a bouncer at the club. And you want to get in, we'll check the name on the list, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for participating again. It's going to be a great season. But, back to the point, like, in our Listener League and in the family, this guy's family league, he said that, it's always chaotic because a lot of people play these leagues and they don't really know what they're doing. It's not like your typical, like all of us, we watch fantasy football content, we consume it, we speak on it as we are right now. And, we have a certain strategy that everyone kind of follows in the fantasy football community. And in these family leagues, it's basically like, okay, I'm going to draft Josh Allen in the first round, and then I'm going to draft, Jalen Hurts in the 3rd round, and then I'm going to draft 2 tight ends, and then I'm going to draft 2 defenses for good measure. Like, it just gets chaotic in those things. And like what you said, Brian, people go on runs, people panic. When they see a quarterback get taken off the board, and then the next guy says, "Oh, I got to take a quarterback now." And then everyone starts taking quarterbacks. Like, there's that whole run. What do you do in that case then? Are you sticking by, do you have, like, what I'm saying is, like, do you have a guy in mind that you kind of just are waiting, or do you say, okay, basically this is the round I'm picking quarterback in, but now everyone's picking that run, like, I got to go up now and I got to do it, like, I got to move up around to take that quarterback?
That's a good point to bring up. Well, if you ask me in particular, I do have a quarterback in mind. I'll talk about him later on too. He's going to be one of the champs I pick later on. It's going to be a hot take. You guys will like this one. But I think, if that situation does happen, well, one, be lucky, be the guy that's right after the first few guys start drafting their quarterbacks. That could be helpful. But if it is a panic and all the good guys out of the way, then maybe go back to the original game plan. Hopefully you had a game plan coming in where it's like, okay, I missed that first round of quarterbacks, but there's still some really decent options in the lower rounds too. So maybe they're not, fantasy wise the same level as, your Mahomes, your Allens, but guys like, I think Jordan Love will be a really popular, like probably the first of the low end quarterback QB1 picks. Purdy, those are all be great guys to kind of draft too. So don't panic. Go back to your original strategy. I'll get my value at quarterback later on the draft.
And the way I like to get my strategy, or my quarterback strategy for late rounds, is I look for rushing upside. I think if you can get a guy who he doesn't need to be 70, 80 yards like Lamar or something. No, I'm just talking like a 30, 40. And you'd be like, why? That's not that much. Because on top of the passing, and if you can get rushing touchdowns, which are going to be worth more than the passing touchdown, it's going to be so much more valuable. And obviously, the most prime example is Jalen Hurts of last year. Basically, it was pretty ass, but between just getting rushing touchdowns, which most quarterbacks aren't going to get double-digit rushing touchdowns, but just the absolute sheer amount of running he did too, it's going to make him valuable. And then this year, there's so many guys I feel like in the later part of the draft that I would go ahead and be okay with drafting. So you got like Caleb, you got Jaden, you have what's his name?
Richardson.
Oh my God, I'm freaking. Richardson, Kyler, Jordan Love, even Purdy gets some nice little scramble yards. So there's a lot of guys there that could have that upside. And then if you're looking like, okay, all the guys are like, I don't want one of those. You want to look for someone that just has high passing volume, right? Like that team is just going to throw the ball a fuck ton, are going to be down a lot. So they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. So you got the Burrows. I mean, that he kind of is in that middle tier. But even like a Goff, Tua, Stafford, these guys are just going to be throwing so many passes. It's like insane, So there's a lot of like different ways to look at it, but you can always go safe with a rushing quarterback.
Top 3 quarterbacks last year, Allen, Lamar, and Jalen Hurts. All of them were good rushers, just to keep that in mind. And, that's a big point. And then I also think that weapons that you have as a quarterback, if you think those weapons and they're going in the first, second rounds, like Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, right? That means Tua has to be valuable if those guys are going to score a lot of points, because someone has to pass him the ball, right? It's got to be, usually it's Tua. Hopefully he stays healthy. But like, it's going to, like, the quarterback gets all the same points that the wide receivers would get, just a little bit less because they score a little bit less in terms of passing yards. But like, Burrow has T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. That's why you draft him.
Purdy got the Avengers.
Purdy's got the Avengers for now.
Caleb's got 3 great receivers.
Exactly.
You got Stafford, Puka, and Kupp. And yeah, that's a great point. You got to look for guys that are on these explosive offenses. Tua is the best example. I had a Tua Tyreek Hill stack last year. Nasty business, man. And it was just so random because I didn't expect Tua to be my quarterback, right? I ended up just getting him in my late round quarterback last year. And I had Tyreek Hill, so it worked so well last year. And there's no reason to believe it's not going to happen again this year, right? Or if you get Amon-Ra and you pair him with Jared Goff. Like, it's a nice stack, and it's just like late round, you can get another one. Like, if I get Purdy in the 9th and I get Jaden in the 11th, like, one of those two is going to be useful every week, right? So I think it's easier to do that and then just have stellar running backs and wide receivers, in my opinion. And then, sprinkle in a nice little tight end.
Now let's bring up that point again. Let's do that positional battle, because it seems like we're prioritizing like quarterbacks over tight ends. Is that the move here? Like, are you always going to draft a quarterback over a tight end?
I think that's the strategy I've been running on the last few years of playing fantasy. I am far from a tight end guru. I always forget tight end and I end up drafting like Fryermus for the last like 2 years, and he's like
Jesus Christ.
He gets like 1 touchdown, 1 catch, and I think, oh boy, that's a great week there. So not good with tight ends, but I like to think of it as right. I sometimes think of tight ends. I try to say, okay, if they were a wide receiver, what level of value they would be at. So like clearly guys like, right, Kelsey, perhaps Laporta this year, those would be equivalents of like a wide receiver one type. Maybe your Andrews and maybe more of like starting from McBride is closer to like a wide receiver 2 level. But I sometimes think of us like as tight ends. They're so similar with wide receivers, right? They're always going to be catching that ball there. I try to think of them in terms of wide receivers. At this point in the draft, is it going to be worth it? Is this a good deal to pick up my tight end at this level?
I'm going to bring up a little bit of data here. Brant, you said that you were on Fantasy Pros just today. Well, I've been taking a look in anticipation of this episode because I wanted to get an understanding of, like, I always figured that tight ends were the more valuable than quarterbacks because of how positionally scarce they are, right? Because you say like Travis Kelce, he's basically been a fantasy god if you have never played fantasy football before. Like Travis Kelce has been consistently tight end 1 or tight end 2, right? For like years and years and years. And his positional value was so powerful that like if you had the third tight end, right? Like you're not going to score as much as Kelce. And like if Kelce is scoring like 18 points on you and your tight end is not scoring that many, because again, like Bryant said, they're usually like 1 catch for a touchdown and you're lucky if they get that touchdown, right? You're begging for a guy who just catches touchdowns because that's just 6 points right there. But usually you're going to get a guy who has 3 receptions for 42 yards and that's like 7 points. Meanwhile, Travis Kelce got 87 for a touchdown and 60 receptions. That's like, it's over for you. Like that's what I always assumed, right? But I never actually did the research into it. So I took a look at the data for the last 3 years for every position. So yeah, it took a little bit. And what I'm looking for here is that if I were to try to either reach for a top tight end, right? Let's say the top 3, I was able to get a top 3 tight end versus if I got like a bottom tier starter tight end, which in most leagues, it's a 12-team league. So you would have, 12 teams. So at most, you'd have like the 12th best tight end, let's say, the replacement level value, which you could probably get on waivers if everyone's not drafting a backup tight end, which, again, normally nobody is. But let's say you were to have the 12th best tight end versus the, best tight end. And then I kind of averaged out the numbers here. I said the top 3 tight ends averaged out versus the last 3 tight ends, tight end 10, tight end 11, tight end 12. And let's see how many, points you're missing between the two, right? If you were to have the tight end 1 for a top 3 tight end for the entire year versus kind of a top 10 to 12 tight end. And what I found was that, you're missing on average about 95 points overall for the entire season. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that was for quarterbacks. 60 points total for the entire season. And that amounts to about 3 points per game. That's the gap between the top 3 and the bottom 3, which is not that many, right? That was for last year. The year before that, it's an average about 2.8 points per game. And if you go below that, it's 2.33 points per game. So it's not that many in terms of a difference. Now you take a look at the quarterbacks, right? And I compared the top 3 quarterbacks scoring in fantasy versus the number 10, number 11, number 12. And again, I'm only doing, 1 through 12 because you only have to start 1, right, for each league, for each team. So in a 12-team league, it would be 12 quarterbacks. And then you could probably get a replacement level quarterback, like, again, QB 12 at worst, QB 13 at worst. So if you average that out, you have about 95 points in gap, which is about 5 points per game. So obviously a little bit more. In 2022, it was an average of 7 points per game. In 2021, it's about 5 points per game. So obviously, it matters more to get a quarterback than a tight end. And if you take a look at the stats of tight end, you see that most of the time, even though Travis Kelce is a god, Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, they score around the exact same amount of points. They scored about let's say 114, right? Total for the entire season. And they're all so very close to each other that it doesn't make that much of a difference whether you draft one versus the other. So if that's the case, then why are you drafting, a guy in the 4th round when you could get the same kind of production, or at least you just lose 2 points per game of production when you can draft them in like the 11th or 12th round? And then when you do this, study for running backs and wide receivers, because we want to, again, emphasize the positional value, it matters so much more because the replacement level running back that you get, which is, a starting level running back, is 12 teams times 2 because you have to start 2 running backs. So that's 24 running backs. So now you have to average out the top 3 running backs versus the number 22nd, 23rd, and 24th running back. And when you average that out, it's about 8 points per game. That's a lot more. When you do that for wide receivers, it's 7 points per game. So that's why there's so much more of an emphasis on running backs and wide receivers, because if you get just a barely starting level running back versus the top running back, you're losing a lot more than versus a tight end or a quarterback. And the same goes for wide receiver. So play your differences wisely. You're trying to get the top of the top for both of those positions because those gaps will matter a lot more every week for the entire season compared to tight ends. Thank you for listening to
me. Are you
like
the AWS data guy? Did you somehow plug into their API or hook up to their API or something?
Sponsor me. Fantasy Pros, thank you. AWS,
Next Gen Stats.
Next Gen Stats.
Pro Football Focus? Do you work for Pro Football Focus?
You're not stupid enough to work for Pro Football Focus.
Hey man, what if they offer us a partnership?
Well, then I will take it and I will retract every statement I make.
Oh, that's Pro Football Talk. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, those guys are good. But no, I totally agree with you. That's why we kind of mentioned, taking your shots at those top end wide receivers and running backs, just because if you can hit, you're gonna win. That's what comes down to it, right? That's why their point differentials are so much bigger. If you get those extra points, you're gonna win. And it sounds like 2 or 3 points, whatever. But if he had 1 week, he gets every week he's not gonna just get 3 more, right? There's gonna be a week where he gets 15 more, 10 more, and those are the games you're gonna win, right? That might actually decide something for you. So, just I guess it's really good food for thought, because it's just really a question to ideology in terms of drafting, right?
Yeah, and it's not just it's just not ideology anymore. It's there's so much data behind it. You have to at a certain point, right. The logic makes sense. There's only 12 quarterbacks you need, right? So that means there's a ton of quarterbacks out there, right? Running back is so much scarcer.
It's weird because you take a look at the names of the guys in the top 12 for tight ends. For example, last year, Laporta, he was a super late round pick. Njoku was a double-digit round pick. And Ingram was a late, single-digit number, 8, 9 or something last year. Taysom Hill was 7. I don't even think he got drafted. Cole Kmet was 8, and he was also a late round pick. Jake Ferguson was a late round pick. Trey McBride, I think, went undrafted in most leagues. Then, the guys you did draft, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews are 12 and 13. Goddard was a 6th, 7th round pick last year. He was 15. You know what I mean? And so it's what are you paying for exactly in that premium, right? It's the guys that are getting in these top 12 for especially the tight end position. It's just honestly, it's random as hell, right? It's so much I feel less statistical based and analytic based. It's just sometimes it doesn't work out, right? You just don't get the touches. You don't it doesn't work out. And you can't do anything about it. So why would you take that variance, right? There's running backs that are gonna get workload one way or another. There's wide receivers that always will get touches, right? So it's just really is it just makes too much sense. Yeah.
By the way, Christian McCaffrey, I think he scored Raheem Mostert, I think, was 2nd in terms of running backs. I think Christian McCaffrey scored 100 more points than him. So
God damn.
Just draft Christian McCaffrey.
Insane. You heard it here first, folks. Draft CMC.
Yeah, it was 357 for Christian McCaffrey, 255.
What a great analysis.
He just ruined the entire average probably, but
no. Hey,
that's crazy.
That's what you get when you draft running backs.
Yeah. Well, we're not here to talk about running backs though. We're here to help make sure you find the right quarterback, find the right tight end. I think you basically understand the message at this point. Don't draft a tight end high. So let's dive deep in here to this graveyard of fantasy tight ends. And we're going to play a little game here called Draft or Pass. And we're just going to list out a name. This is a very simple game, by the way. It's like Tinder. You know, you just get the profile of the player up, and you're either going to draft him or you're going to pass on them. There's no, nuance to this because you're only drafting for one. You're finding your match, right? You don't need to draft multiple guys for this position. So I'm just going to list out a couple names, and we're just going to figure it out. We're going to start with the tight ends here, and then we're going to move on to the quarterbacks. So
let's do it.
All right, let's do it. I'm going to name, these are some ugly names, by the way. Let's start off with... No
disrespect to their families, but...
Yes, no disrespect to their families, of course. Let's start off with David Njoku.
Oh, yeah, give me that. Give me that draft, baby. I had him last year.
Him?
He was good. And he was good. Like, he's just consistently 4 catches, 40 yards, and then some weeks a tug, some weeks a not, and you just live with it.
I'm concerned, though. Yeah, go ahead.
I would have to say, yes, dude. Dude, that was slandering Njoku, like, for, 2 or 3 episodes last year. I was like, dude, every year this guy is just a bum, and, well, now he's not a bum no more, so I'm in the same boat.
My only concern is that I'm going to pass, by the way. I'm concerned because Joe Flacco's not there, so I just wonder how much he's going to get with Deshaun Watson. I don't think I remember it being too pretty with Deshaun out there.
It wasn't. No, it definitely wasn't. But with Watson, you never know when he's going to play or not, so I feel like there's a good chance he's not playing the full season.
Well, then you got Jameis Winston out there, so
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
He's going to throw the ball, maybe not
somewhere
just to
someone.
Somewhere, Njoku could grab it. Yeah, he could save an interception.
DB, could be a DB, could be a tight end, could be a safety.
The coach.
Right. The coach, the sideline, the fans. All right. Let's pick a little bit to the higher side of society here. Dalton Kincaid. Draft or pass?
I love it too, bro. That's one of my young tight ends I'm thinking about drafting in a lot of my leagues. He's might be the Bills' number 1 receiving option. And Josh Allen, we know he loves to throw the ball. So pass-happy offense. Workload should be increasing. Opportunity is there. I love it.
My gut was saying pass for some reason, but then you made up a good point there that like the Bills have no wide receivers left. Like Stephon Diggs is gone. Like all those.
Gabe Davis is gone.
Gabe Davis is gone. It's a wasteland out there in Buffalo. So yeah, he is in a good situation. So yeah, I'll probably would end up drafting him too.
What if I were to tell you that his ADP right now is around the 4th, 5th round?
What was that?
Change your mind at all?
What round did you say?
It's around the 4th, 5th round.
That is exactly the highest I can draft a tight end, so I'm okay with it. If I don't get him, I'm not gonna be sad about it. But if that is the earliest, I'll take him. It's the 4th, 5th round, or any tight end. So I'm okay with it.
I might wait a round or 2 more, but if it's similar to quarterback, like a tight end run starts happening, I hope I'm in a good position to get him.
I'm on the never tight end train. I'm gonna pass on this one.
Jesus
I
Christ,
love the logic and I understand it. The argument's been made, but again, I'm gonna assume that the difference is negligible. For 4th round pick, I think I could get a DJ Moore or T Higgins. So
yeah,
I feel like
that's
I can
very
do
fair. When you put it like that, give me DJ Moore.
Would you draft Brock Bowers?
Oh God, no! Fuck no! Man, that's disgusting. I think Brock Bowers is such a good talent. I remember we talked about him during the draft special episode. Great prospect, great player. Just the opportunity there is just so awful. Quarterback situation is bad. O-line situation is not good. They want to run the ball. And they have Michael Mayer there. It's like the competition for to get touches as a tight end, like a tight end by committee. Like what? And it's like I like the way they use him though. I'm not gonna only spew hate. The way they used him in this preseason games, I think they said in the first game that he played, he lined up in 6 different places on the field as a tight end in the backfield and the slot on the outside. So he's doing it all, which is a good sign. But it's still the Raiders with Gardner Minshew / Aiden O'Connell. So I'm 100% A-okay off that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be too hot for drafting him right off the bat, but I can see him very much in the later part of the season. He's that tight end you pick in halfway through the season, and hey, he could potentially be like a league winner out there if you're betting on his like sheer raw talent. And I know, right, he's competing with Michael Myers, I don't know, but yeah, and it's strange that the Raiders, they drafted 2 like tier 1 tight ends in back-to-back years. But if you believe that talent wins out alone, and Bowers is him, he is that special tight end god out there. He could have that breakout as a rookie, kind of middle part of the season there. He could be a pretty solid pickup later on there. And even with the quarterback situation as it is over there, who knows? I'm not sure how tight end friendly those guys would end up being, but I can see him as potentially breaking out Bowers later in the season.
I will pass again. I think Bowers is good. I love his talent. I agree with the situation is not good. Luke Getsy is the offensive coordinator. Cole Kmet made it with him. But I don't think I'm too keen on figuring that out because I think he's going to be going...
I don't think Luke Getsy is keen on figuring it out either.
His ADP right now is 79. So that would be around 7th, 8th round. I don't think that's...
There's tight ends behind him I'd rather have.
Yes. Let's talk about one of them, Jake Ferguson.
Oh, that's the one. I love it. I love it. He's a number 2 for the Cowboys. Even the Packer game was a great example. If they get down, they're going to give him the ball. He's their second best receiving option. They don't have a running back, so touchdowns, like the red zone targets should go up, which means touchdowns are going to go up. CeeDee Lamb's not there right now. Jake Ferguson's probably the only one that Dak trusts right now in that offense, so I love that pick. And it's like, I can get him. I think he's essentially the same ADP as Bowers, if not more, like later in the draft.
Lower,
yeah. Come on, man. You're telling me I can get a better whatever position and then still get a really good tight end? That's insane. And give me that all day.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like Ferguson feels like the beginning of the tier of like not quite the elite tier 1s of tight ends, but right, to Matthew's point earlier in the show, right, it doesn't really matter. We're talking about squibbling over like 2 or 3 fantasy points at that level. So if you kind of assume, right, this top level of like top 12 or so tight ends, Ferguson's might be at the lower end of that, but you're really not missing out on much. So you would be, if it is time to draft that tight end, you might be able to get him for decent value.
He's the guy that I think is the value. Like, he's the guy that's going in the late round, but he averaged 10 points per game in PPR, 8 points per game half PPR. Like, I like the pick because you can get him, and I feel like he could beat the ADP, obviously, and I think he can get into that. Like, you're not looking for tight end 12. The worst case scenario is tight end 12, but your hope is that you're not losing too many points, right? So, like, hopefully your tight end has like a tight end one day in him that you could try to make the difference in one of those weeks. And I think Jake Ferguson is one of those guys that you can do that.
Such a pass happy offense too. It's what you want for your like if you kind of notice the guys that I liked, those are pass happy offenses. Kincaid, Ferguson, they're going to throw the ball a lot. Then you want some shares of it essentially.
Yeah. All right, last but not least for tight ends, Ben Sinnott. He's a rookie tight end from Kansas State, I want to say, from the Commanders. He, I think, is the lowest tight end we're going to rank here. I think he's in the 13th, 14th, 15th round. Like, what do you guys think?
Let me tell you guys.
Who is that?
Let me tell you guys something. Let me tell you, Brian. Let me tell you. If you guys want to know who this year's Sam Laporta is.
Oh, boy.
Not to that level, but there's always a tight end, sometimes a rookie, that you're like, like Brian just said, who the hell is that guy? And then he's going to get touches. Like, it's just going to get these very, very random but good touches. And this year, it's Ben Sinnott. He's going to be with Jaden Daniels, and you're not going to know who he is. He's going in like basically the end of the draft. I would say, when you're draft, what do we say a couple episodes ago, Matt? When you're drafting at the end of the draft, what you always want to draft potential. Ben Sinnott, we don't know what his potential is as a rookie, so I think is very high in terms of like, they having wide receiver 2 struggles right now. Matt, I think you were the one who shared it with us with the Jahan Dotson news.
Yeah,
the most sad news in the world. He's getting no touches. They're a rookie quarterback. He's gonna look for the tight end, safety valve. Cliff Kingsbury offense. The ball comes out quick. Tight end's gonna get touches. I love it.
Totally a fan of it just because Jahan Dotson's irrelevant now, which is really sad to see. Yeah. I don't know who else is on the Reds, like the Commanders. It's
Zach Ertz, I think, too.
Yeah.
Bro, still kicking?
Yeah, somehow. I'm pretty sure. I don't 100% quote me on it.
Yeah, Zach Ertz is there. I remember.
Okay. Yeah. Fuck, dude, that's disgusting. But here's 13th round. Like, if he doesn't suck, he sucks for 4 weeks. Just fucking cut him. Like. But if he's great, now you just got a starting tight end in the 14th round. Like, thank me later.
Exactly. All right. Now let's go to the quarterbacks here. Let's just pick from the lower tier. Let's go with our strategy. Let's go with lightning round here because we're a little short on time here. Jordan Love. Pass. Draft.
Oh, yeah.
Bryant? Draft. I will reluctantly draft. I'm a little concerned. But Brock Purdy.
Pass.
Draft.
Just not enough upside. This other weeks he's gonna be ass, and then he's not gonna get touches. Like I don't want it.
What do you mean touches? He's not a running back.
No, like touches and like throws. You know what I mean? He's not gonna do shit some weeks. There's the weeks McCaffrey's just gonna carry him, and the defense didn't carry him. Like it's just sucks. But
I'm gonna help segue for you, man. I'm gonna pass on Purdy for my guy Caleb Williams. Yes, sir. He's a fellow USC. He's a fellow USC guy. He's the resident USC, and I have to support my guy. This kid is special. All drafting Caleb Williams. I'm definitely going after him.
My two quarterbacks, most of my mocks, Caleb and Jaden. Give me both of them.
Oh boy,
take those rookies.
I'll do Caleb. Jaden. I think there's the rushing upside. I don't know where exactly he's being drafted, but if it's like
behind Caleb in like the 12th to 13th,
okay, I'll do that. I'll do that then.
Yeah.
Because if it was above Caleb, then I wouldn't have done it because he doesn't have weapons. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Caleb
weapons suck, but you're betting on the rushing upside.
Yeah. Goff. I feel like he's the most average quarterback of, fantasy football.
All time.
He's that quarterback 12. But
yeah, I'll pass just because I like the other guys in this range. So I'm not gonna just say I like everybody because I don't.
I'll pass. No rushing upside.
Yeah, pass for someone with more potential.
Tua.
Draft. I take him.
I like Tua. If he was, I don't like telling you guys this. We're our listeners in our listener league before the draft, but I really like Tua this year. I don't know why, but I think that if Tyreek is there, Jalen's there, I think Tua has to be at least starting level quality, right? Like
he was last year.
Yeah, like I feel like he could be quarterback 10, and that's what I'm okay with. Like if I'm getting him in the 10th round because he's at 104 right now in ADP, triple digits. All right, count me in.
Yeah, I would just definitely draft a second quarterback in like the 13th or 14th because the chance that he stays healthy all year is just not there.
Who's your like ridiculously deep guy? Like Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins are all down.
I love Trevor Lawrence, man. I do, bro. Mm-hmm. I'll take Trevor. And man, 13th, 4th, 15th round, but you're tripping, man. It's not going to get worse than it was last year, hopefully. So I'll take him if I get like Tua as my first quarterback. I took Trevor as my second quarterback and be all right.
Yeah, I've always liked my guy Kirk Cousins there. I don't know how good his current. Well, I know he's got Drake London. That's not a USC stan, USC person. But honestly, his second quarterback is right after Caleb. Would I get him? I gotta have some security, so I'll keep it extra patriotic for my school. I'm gonna go with the one and only Daddy Darnold, the
God, you got
quarterback of all time. A bit tongue in cheek, but
no way.
It's his last shot, man. He has everything. He has his whole career to play for. One last shot to ride the Gecky bus.
Oh God, I mean Kirk. I think he was on pace for being a very good quarterback last year before the Achilles injury. I'm a little concerned about it because, you don't really, even for quarterbacks, especially Kirk, who's like 34, I think, it's a little concerning. Oh, he's 36. God damn. What are you guys doing, Falcons? But either way, that's a little concerning to me, but I think that, it is very high upside. Like the ADP's already cooked into the injury potential there. And like the decline potential, so I think that's fine. Like,
Matt, can I say it? Can I say it, Matt? Can I say it?
Say it.
Justin Fields.
Nope. Okay, we're gonna move on here. Not even gonna expound on that topic.
Justin Fields.
I heard both of them weren't very good last week.
You said move on. Come on, don't go back to it after you decided to say move on.
All right. Well. Last but not least, we're going to talk Counsel Champs this year. Like every year we do this, we pick out a league winner for you to, we basically stake our claim onto one guy to kind of propel us through the season. This is our pick for who's going to basically carry you through that out the entire league. This is the guy that throughout every week you're going to be saying, wow, I can't believe I didn't draft that guy. I can't believe, Nando's got him. I hate myself. I hate Nando.
I hate Nando. Sorry. I thought that's what we were going with this. Okay.
Well, yeah, I get that. But if you don't draft these guys, you will lose your league. And if you do, you will win your league. So, we have a hit or miss rate. I remember one time I picked Najee Harris, and I don't think that went very well. But I picked Bijan Robinson, which went average, I'd say. So, it's very... Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do you have mine from last year? I do not remember off the top of my head, but...
I don't remember, but I do remember one of them a few years ago was Allen Robinson, which kind of gives me worried to your pick this time.
That was like 3 years ago, bro. Come on.
You gotta bring.
All right. Well, to redeem myself, I guess I go first. Don't disregard that Allen Robinson thing. It's not true. No one knows about it. I'm taking the guy I've been talking about the last 4 episodes since our mock draft episode. Give me Cooper effing Kupp, man.
Oh,
if he's healthy, he's wide receiver 1 on the team. The most pass happy, most sophisticatedly easy offense. It doesn't even make sense how he's open sometimes. And Sean McVay is a genius. Matthew Stafford's still there. Puka's a little hurt, so that helps out a little bit. Cooper Kupp, man, he's just that guy. He said they're training. He's been wide receiver 1 all camp, and then just Cooper Kupp, man. Like, what are we doing? He won a Triple Crown 2 years ago. I get it. He's older. He's been a little injured. And even last year when he was out there, he was still really good. You're going to look at yourself and you're going to be like, God damn it. Why did I doubt Cooper Kupp? Like, why? You're going to be like, he was hurt, but if he's playing, he's great. And that's what you're going to see when the first week of the season comes out and drops like 100 on like 9 catches and a touchdown. And you're just going to be like, God damn it, bro. Cooper Kupp is back. And Cooper Kupp is going to be fucking back.
I'm just already... let's fast forward to draft day already. I've heard G talk about Cooper Kupp every week so far, in every episode, and I understand it already. I've heard the argument. Yeah, I'm not even going to try drafting him this year. G, you can have him. It's fine. That's my gift to you.
Now I got 10 other people to convince to let me have him.
All right, Brian. I mean, are you gonna draft Cooper Kupp, or are you gonna get someone else here for us?
Maybe I'll steal G's Cooper Kupp. I don't know. Thanks for the info there. But I mentioned it earlier in the show. Sure thing. I mentioned it earlier in the show, and this is a pick, very untraditional pick here. He might not be the most obvious choice right off the bat, but Caleb Williams, that kid has something special, right? And I feel like this is a story that's been told many times before, right? Where usually your high-end draft picks are usually rookie quarterbacks that are going on really, really bad teams and they have nothing around him, and they inevitably, fail and don't do well here, even though they have all that talent coming in. They have those highlight reels from back in the college days. But I believe in Caleb Williams, not just because he is a USC player, but from just what I saw from him playing on the screen. That man he not only has the talent, he can create that magic. Was just the snap of a finger. He can perform just tricks on the field there, the way he spins and dodges every single player that comes at him. And last year, right, he had a struggling offensive line. I know NFL is a whole different beast there, but even when everything was falling apart around him, he was fighting out there, fighting for his life, and just tossing dimes still, even when all hope kind of seemed lost. So I've seen kind of the peak of how he has played here, and given now he has, right, not only DJ Moore, he has Keenan Allen. Even though Keenan Allen's getting a little bit older there, he's still Keenan Allen. We've seen him explode like every couple games or so. And he also has a fellow...
He's like fat, right? Like he's really
Keenan
fat.
Allen?
Yeah.
He's
Sorry to just make it very blunt, but I think he gained like 20 pounds.
He's not as fat as... who is that? Kelvin Benjamin at Golden Corral. At least he's not Golden Corral caliber, I would hope. And Rome Odunze, another wide receiver from the same class, who I don't think many people are talking about him too. He also had supreme level of talent playing with Michael Penix up in Seattle there. So he has all the weapons around him. Even if the O-line isn't, a top tier line, I'm sure he can make it work just by his evasion skills out there. And he's the guy with, every single play, every single snap he takes, you feel like he can throw. He can just drop bombs, just dimes.
Not a throw he can't make. Yeah, and even in the preseason so far, he's been making those plays that you've been talking about. Break one, break two, defenders, scramble left, throw right, whatever. And it's fucking beautiful.
That's his signature move, and that's like what I want to see, and that's what's going to win you a fantasy season if you take a shot on Caleb if it works out.
I love it.
Very convincing, very convincing. I will
Time
go
for some nasty business.
Me and Gav, unfortunately, Gav could not make it to this show, but he sent in his Counsel Champ, and of course, he stole my Counsel Champion already. So I'll just digress. I'll give Gav's Counsel Champion recap because it was gonna be mine. It was Drake London, the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver. I think me and Gav both believe he's poised for a breakout year because Kirk Cousins is the first functional quarterback he's actually seen, and Zach Robinson and Raheem Morris are the first functional coaches Drake London has been able to see in his time in Atlanta. We're not talking Arthur Smith anymore. The bad man is gone. Desmond Ritter's been shipped out to the desert, right? We are in a position where we have a guy from the Rams, which is always what you want, calling plays on offense, and you have Kirk Cousins, a guy who has been able to feed receivers like Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen before him, right? Top wide receivers. And Drake London is the most talented wide receiver on that roster by far. We don't care about Kyle Pitts. Get him out of here. Bijan, he can catch all the short yardage
take
passes.
That back, man.
Right? I'm not taking that back. It's over for Kyle Pitts.
We love Kyle Pitts here. We love Kyle Pitts here. I will die on the Kyle Pitts.
Oh, my God. Either way, Drake London is your guy because who else is going to catch those passes in Atlanta? It can't all be Bijan Robinson, right? Drake London.
Would you want me to answer that for you?
No, we're not talking about him. Not talking about him. He's gone.
I'm drafting your guy in the 10th round.
That man's gone. We didn't even talk about him in the tight end stuff.
You didn't let me bring him up. You said you don't bring him up again this year.
That's the biggest indictment against your guy.
Either way, he is poised for a breakout year. He was able to do some amazing stuff with Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota and Taylor Heineke as his quarterbacks. I cannot imagine what he can do with an actual relevant, scheme and play caller and quarterback. So Drake London's my guy.
Does he outperform his ADP, Matt? Really, right now he's in the middle of the second round, right next to Devontae Adams, and you're telling me he's going to have a better year than Devontae, and he's going to outperform that if he's going to be your Counsel Champ?
I think he has a very good chance of beating this ADP because, he's like the wide receiver 13 right now. I think he can beat out Devontae. I think he can beat out Puka. Like, right now, you see Marvin Harrison is up there, and I'm a little concerned with that because rookie wide receivers are great, but they take a while to start up. And I feel like the ADP is at his peak. While right now Drake London's still at wide receiver 13, and I feel like, he can climb. There's room for him to climb. And if he doesn't climb and he's wide receiver 13, I feel like you're okay with that. Like, top 15 wide receiver, that's still good enough, right? In the second round, that could be your wide receiver 2, or it could be your wide receiver 1, and you'd be okay, right?
But you're telling me Kyle Pitts is there?
I don't even know where Kyle Pitts is. Again, I erased him from my draft board. He's not there. He is gone.
I know. I love it, though. I like the pick. I like the philosophy behind it. It just makes a lot of sense. Kirk Cousins is just a fucking gunslinger by nature and feeds his guys fantasy points. Spoon feeds some fantasy points, and Drake London will definitely be a beneficiary of that, right?
Yeah. Drake London, he was going to win the Blindkoff Award, the top wide receiver for his year in college football before he got hurt towards the end of the season there. So he has a supreme level of talent and takes a gunslinger. Hopefully a gunslinger like Cousins there will be able to unlock him finally.
Yeah, and I'm going to just give my quick Counsel Champion right here. Kyren Williams, don't forget about him, guys. Please don't forget about him. I get the doubts. I get the, arguments of him saying he's too small, he gets injured, and he did get injured. He did miss some time last season. They did draft Blake Corum, to maybe be kind of split carries and stuff like that. And guess what? Sean McVay always loves to have a bell cow running back. And I get that, it hasn't worked out for the past couple of years. Cam Akers wasn't very good. I don't even remember who they had before him. There was like a mixture of like C.J. Anderson and like a bunch of random other
Sony Michel was there for
Sony Michel. Oh my God. The corpse of Sony Michel.
And then obviously the GOAT before him, Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley, right? He was the GOAT. He was an amazing running back. And when Sean McVay used him, he knew to use him because he was the most talented running back in that backfield. And he ran him to the ground, but he got running back one twice, like back-to-back. That rarely ever happens unless you're CMC, right? But Kyren Williams is still there. You don't just give up on a guy who basically did what he did under that Rams offense. Like, it's not Cam Akers out there. Like, he performed. He outperformed everyone. He was undrafted, and he still did everything he possibly could to basically be a top 5 running back in fantasy. And, he did everything he needed to do. No Blake Corum is there, but I think that Sean McVay adopts that, running back one philosophy. He's going to have a main guy in the backfield. There's a slight chance maybe Blake Corum will take it if Kyren Williams gets injured for a very long time, but I just don't see it. And if you want to be even more convinced, the Rams basically paid up to get a bunch of guards this season. I think they at least signed one or two. I think one from the Steelers, and then Jonah Jackson from the Lions. They're beefing up the interior of that O-line. It's going to be very, very good in the trenches for them this year. I think they are poised to run the ball very well this year. Kyren Williams doesn't even need that many carries if he's going to be so efficient under them. So I just love the pick. I think he's also being drafted in the second round, which I think is ridiculous considering where he was last year. Too much speculation. Yeah.
Very good pick. Last one I want to drop real quick if I have a second is JSN. Oh, man. I love it. I just love it so much. He's so slept on. He was so good in college. He was in a wide receiving core between him, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka, and he was the best fucking receiver. And it's very simple to me. Like, there is a reason why. He will get touches. Last week or 2 weeks ago when we had a receiver episode, I told you guys a new offensive coordinator was coming to Seattle. The new offensive coordinator is offensive coordinator from Washington. And you guys remember Washington last year had a hell of a pass offense. So I'm not saying Geno Smith is going to be some great quarterback, but JSN will get his.
I'm just going to say one more name out here. Alvin Kamara still exists. I mostly bring him up because last year's draft, he was like the plague. People were just avoiding him. They didn't want to draft him because they didn't want to take the chance. I think he was suspended for the start of the season. But when he finally did get on the field, he could still produce, and it's clearly not as explosive as before. But don't forget, Alvin Kamara is still out there. Grab him in your league.
He's a PPR beast. I said I wasn't going to draft him. I don't know. Maybe I'll come around to it. We'll see. By the way, I did find last year's list. I don't think you're going to like the results too much here. Like, my Counsel Champion was... Trevor Lawrence, Jahan Dotson, and George Pickens.
It doesn't work in that. Let's not get worse than that.
But it does because G's picks were Tony Pollard and George Pickens. And then Gab's was Calvin Ridley. Oh, man.
I think we're all up on the same team. It's not a good thing. So, Falcons, watch out.
Falcons? Oh, we only had B. We didn't say Bijan. I think the Rams should watch out.
Oh,
boy.
Oh, fuck, man.
Hopefully, year before that, by the way, you had Ayuk. I had Najee and Michael Pittman. That was the year he sucked. And I think Gab had Derrick Henry, which I don't remember how well he did. I don't think it was very well.
My love for Ayuk has always been there. Come home, baby.
He's not going anywhere.
Come home.
Well, that'll do it for our episode today. Shout out to Zencastr once again for helping us record this episode. We're recording it all on this platform. Even late at night, it still works just fine, super smooth. And if you want to record your own podcast, you can go to zencastr.com/pricing. Use our referral code SportsCounsel. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan, courtesy of us. Once again, you got to type in that code, though. Sports Counsel, SportsCounsel, right? Sports Counsel. 30% off your first month of any paid plan. So, that'll do it for this show. Again, follow us on our social media platforms, everything. We're going to be doing, our actual draft soon. And we're going to be revealing the Listener League order in short notice, so stay tuned for that. And we got a very special show for you. Don't want to say too much, but I think we got a...
First of its kind. I'll also leave it at that. It's a first of its kind for the Sports Counsel podcast.
Got to blow some mentalities out there.
It's going to be great, honestly. I can already feel it. I'm very excited. And, we're gonna have, let's just say we got a special guest coming on, and I think it's gonna be very good. So stay tuned. Make sure you have those notifications on, because that episode's gonna be big. So stick around. Thank you again. Have a good night, guys.
See you.
Good luck out there.